What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It is March 6, 2024. It is 4:03 in the afternoon, and the market is closed. And boy, was it a doozy today. We caught some very nice moves in the morning. I did hit my 3-day trade limit. Then we kind of wafted our way to the upside, struggled to move higher, and then something happened. We had some bank issues and something of that nature, but that news was dropped about 30 minutes prior to the drop that happened in the market, so I'm not sure what triggered the sell-off. But hey, either way, we happened to get into that trade for a reason that had nothing to do with what was about to happen. Obviously, we cannot see the future, but because people took the trade for the reasons we were talking about it at the time, they got to take one hell of a ride to the downside and made a lot of money. I was not one of those people because I was already done for the day, but let's go ahead and launch the chart and see what we got ourselves into. As you guys know, we have our pre-market support, resistance, and midlines, which I do these at 8:30 every single morning, okay? Now, leading up to 8:30, these lines made sense to me at the time. Very quickly, we got out and above. Now, I was saying this whole time, guys, if we open up here, I'm not going to be interested in calls. And the reason for this is, as you guys know, I do call put scenarios, okay? Basically, I'm explaining to the group why and where I'm going to take calls or puts in advance. We do this at 9:25 every single morning. Now, I said, because I'm going to put a call line on here, I want you to know that I'm most likely not going to take this. But I'm going to put it at yesterday's low of day, 510.70, okay? Or yesterday high of day, my bad, at 510.70. Our put line is going to be at 510.04. That's it. Now, I explain. If we breach the call line, we'd have to be aiming for 511.06. That's the next resistance up. If we breach the put line, if you play it, just know that you do have support at 509.83. Okay, we would hope that it moves down through the next 2 or 3 supports to get to the blue line, but you cannot ignore the fact that they exist. So it's very important that if you're going to take this trade, you already know where you want to get out of the trade. Because if you get to the first support and you say, maybe I'll hold on a little longer, that's fine. Just be prepared to stop yourself out quick so you could stay in profit, or know where you're going to get out if that support holds. We did make it barely through that support right there and made it right down to the next one, which is right here. Okay, it wasn't much farther. We were hoping, myself included, that we were going to get through. I had an alert set right here at 509.61. That's what I was aiming for, hoping for. Now, while we were up here, before we even got to that line, I told everybody right before the market opened, guys, if we breach that line to the upside, I'm not taking it. I don't feel good about the calls. I don't like the idea of calls up there. Play at your own risk, as you should every single day, but I am not taking the calls today up there. Meanwhile, we're rejecting, and at the time, we're watching the Qs start to move down. We were watching NVIDIA pull down and struggling to move up, okay? That was the key. NVIDIA was trying to push up, but it was having a difficult time. Qs were already coming down, and if I'm not mistaken, ADD was drilling down at the time. What happened here? I didn't mean to get that chart. Please hold the chart. Now, ADD opened very, very green, but quickly started to sell off, okay? So all of these things are happening, 9:33, 9:34. I told people up here, although I didn't get into my trade this quickly, because I said to everybody, guys, I'm trying to be responsible today. I'm following my rules, but I'm more inclined to take puts up here because the things that I'm seeing make me believe that there is some room to the downside. We had more people than I knew of at the time, get into puts up here. Now, I got in this candle because by this time, momentum on all the things that matter to me had already started dumping over, and we had just gotten a setup up here anyway, telling me long before I got in that all the things that I want to see moving in the same direction had already started. Okay, I got into this trade. Now, what I didn't do is get out here where I was up a decent amount of money. I got done telling everybody, guys, I'm really wanting to see this thing down to 509.61. That's where my alert is set. That's where I would like to see this go. Now, if you're in the puts already and you got in them up here or down here when we breach this line, you got your 20 cents. You can choose to hang on longer for more if you want. Totally up to you. Okay, totally up to you. But the trade we were looking to take and planning on taking has shown itself. You should have benefited from it. If you choose to deviate from that trade plan, it's on you. It's on you regardless. But guys, know your plan before you get in. Okay? We pulled back. Qs, putting in lower highs, starting from here. And we started talking about it. So guys, if we stay below that trend line on Qs, I believe SPY's got more room to the downside. That's what kept me in this trade. Now, I ended up getting out before we touched 509.61. Got close to it, within 5 cents of it, 4 cents of it, actually. But we were getting close to 10 o'clock. I don't mess with the 10 o'clock candle usually. Okay, it's very rare that I will hold through a 10 o'clock candle, and it's usually only going to happen when I feel like gambling. Okay, so I stayed in it. We stayed below resistances. I barely got red on this trade because I was getting in pretty aggressively up here. I was red at one point, but we stayed below on Qs. We stayed below support turned resistance on SPY, and I had a target. We got to the target. I got out of that trade, ended up being a 28.5% win. Okay, I felt good about it. It was a nice winning trade. The very next candle brought us to the next support down, and then we just dumped. I'm not going to keep putting circles here at every line that we touch, but just know that these lines are accurate almost every single day, guys. I mean, again, to understand that these are here hours, look, an hour before the market opens, and then watch them work through the entire day. I don't move these lines ever, okay? And once we close below them and a downtrend, we're looking for it to get down to the next line. That's it. Okay. Now, in an odd occurrence, we talked about a counter trend trade today because we have a ton of people that like to counter trend trade. Now, I know there's two ways to look at this. One of you are saying, well, we're still putting in lower highs, so it's not really a counter trend trade. And you'd be right on the day. But at the moment, we're putting in higher lows and higher highs. So when somebody was asking me, Jimmy, would you buy puts at a pullback to 509.51? I said, well, it depends. Number one, we're coming off a pretty strong two candles here. Let's see what Qs and ADD are doing at that time. Okay, so at 10:16, let's go over to the Qs at 10:16. We had just broken 2 minutes before that to the upside. But at 10:17, we got to resistance on the Qs. All we're looking for, guys, is confirmation or confluence. SPY was at resistance here. If you look at the double top, Qs was at resistance here. If you use that line, and ADD at the time was still trending down. In fact, it was making another move down at that moment. All things that I care to look at were going in the right direction. I took the risk. I don't know how many people took this trade. I knew that we had the opportunity to have a pretty tight stop. And as long as the Qs were behaving, we were looking hopefully at breaking this trend line, but we never broke above that resistance. Okay. We never really got above this resistance, and our target was the next line down. Counter trend trades, we're typically looking for the next target down to get out of the trade, because counter trend trades don't last forever. That's the way I look at it. If you're going to take the risk on a counter trend trade, take the smaller reward that it's willing to give you. Okay. That trade right there ended up being a 25.6% win. We held support there, bounced off of it, continued our move to the upside. Now, this trade right here, this was my third and final trade. And why did we take this one? Well, we have already cleared back above 510.24, which was criteria number one. Criteria number two was Qs needed to be above or breach above a strong resistance that they had. Okay? That resistance is right here, 439.77. We got below it, had a hard time getting above it. I want to see us get above it, or at least attempt to get above it before I'm willing to take calls on SPY. And I said, if we get above that line on the Qs, we should run up to 440.43. Now, where does that magical number come from, Jimmy? The last time we were above that line. Where does this stop? Just 2 cents off of that line that we just talked about. Why did I hold through the pink line? That's a great question. Our first target was, hey, if we get above this line and Q's breach that line, we get in. If you're trading the SPY or the pink line, which I almost always do, your target is 70, 5, 10, 70. So you got in at 46, out at 70. That's more than a 20-cent move. It justifies the reasoning for a trade. However, upon breaking that line, I told everybody Qs have a decent amount of room here. I'm going to hold on to this trade because there is no resistance on Qs until here. That allowed me to squeeze some extra out of that trade. I got out of this trade because the Qs hit their resistance. I don't care about the what ifs. I care about the what did it do the last time. What if it breaks this time, Jimmy? Then I leave profit on the table. But then I say to you, what if it doesn't break? Then I've maximized my return on this trade. I don't care about the money I leave on the table. I care about making the money I aimed to based on solid reasoning. That's what I care about. That's when I feel like I've done a good job. Okay, I don't want to trade out of control. I don't want to trade with no rules. It doesn't feel good. It's exciting to be right when you gamble, but it's more exciting to know that you can take accurate trades consistently. Right? So I got out of that trade not because SPY hit this line, but because Qs made it to their resistance. That was my last trade. That trade was massive. That was a 45% win. I had a stellar day today, and so did a good chunk of the people in our community today. But the point of this particular trade was waiting for the patience. Now, I know, or being patient enough to wait. I know a lot of people look at this and say, oh, Jimmy, look at all these lines you could have played on the way up. Look at this move from down here. Right. You wanted to play calls down here. You knew this was going to be the bottom. Please don't fool yourself, because if you pretend like you knew that that was the bottom, you're going to be the guy who loses a lot of money. All right. Wait for the chart to prove to you that it's worth your risk. Now, why not buy here? Simply because of the same reason I wasn't excited to play calls up in this area. There's too many lines of resistance at the time that we have to get through that make me nervous. But more importantly was the Qs needed to get above a specific level that they weren't above yet. That's it. That was my third and final trade. Now, moving up. Next trade exit opportunity was for anybody. We had people buy this pullback, right? 1106 on the Qs. Guess what it pulled back to? Support during an uptrend. This is an entry. You buy your calls because Qs and SPY were on support. Split candles right here. I didn't take this. I didn't recommend the trade. I didn't even suggest it. I was done for the day, so I missed this altogether. But I asked people, did you buy the pullback? Everything lined up. Get out right here. Why here? Because that's where we stopped last time. And I'll bet you Qs were getting close to their resistance. Like clockwork. All right, we start to trend up. We get back below this line. Now, I know you're thinking, Jimmy, why did you take puts here? Now, I didn't take these puts, but why did you recognize this as a put suggestion and not this? And I'll tell you why. And I'll give you a hint. It has everything to do with the Qs. So if we look at the Qs at 1122, what were we doing? We were bouncing off of a known support. Fast forward. What were we doing at 1132? breaking said support. We were talking about, guys, I wouldn't buy puts on SPY unless Qs can breach this support level to the downside, because if it does, I expect it to first run to this support here, which is at 439.41. Ironically, we closed basically just there, and if it makes it through that one, I expect us to go down to 439.23, the next line down. So whether you got out because we hit the first one or hit the second one, up to you. Why we got in was not because of SPY breaking the support, but because Qs did. This is a common occurrence, guys. It happens all the time. Just pay attention to the Qs. Now, shortly after this, I went ahead and went to lunch. Okay, so I left around 12:08. I didn't come back till about 1:15. So somewhere around here when we were pushing up against, well, you guessed it, resistance lines. Okay, struggling to move higher. Now, what's funny about this is people were asking me, Jimmy, would you buy calls above 511.88? And the answer was no. Okay. Not only was the answer no, I said, guys, this seems to be a pretty tight range here. In fact, I'd be more interested in potentially buying puts if we close below 511.80. Okay. Now, around this time, at 129, we were also, what were we doing up here? Oh, Qs. Qs were sitting on support, so that's why we wanted to wait. But again, I was asked, would you buy calls here? The answer was no, because the Qs were coming off a lower high. That's what it was. Lower high on Qs, lower high in relation to the most recent high here and here. Okay. Now, could anybody have anticipated a move like this at this time? Absolutely not. So I'm not sitting here taking credit for the fact that we knew this was going to drop. That's naive and stupid to say, or even hint at the idea that that's why. What we did say was if we close below 511.80, I fully expect it to run down to at least 511.61. And if it breaks through that, we should head down to 511.34. Likewise, if it gets through that, it should head down to 511.06. These are all things we talk about in advance. And the reason I give all of these targets is so that you can develop a trade plan should you take that trade to get out of the trade on the good side. That's it. And the beauty of this trade was our stop loss was a candle close above 511.88. You basically had an 8-cent stop loss. Okay? So I also recognize this is a counter trend trade. But the last time we were up at that line, we were able to move down to this line. Did we not? Here we are again at the same line. Wait for a reason to take that trade. Is it a surprise that it made it down there? No. However, if you happen to get into this trade, you had no choice but to make a lot more money than you planned on. Good for you. We had several people take 100+% trades on this particular move. Again, no idea it was going to be this big. No idea it was going to happen. Completely unexpected, but it's awesome that it did. Then we get down and hit every level of support upon breaking through each one. Okay, they stop sometimes at these lines, and then when it candle closes, almost every time it goes back to the next one down. We pull back, sitting here at resistance. Now, I wasn't recommending trading during this time because the market was being being unruly. This seemed unusual and unnecessary. And I was telling people, if you trade this, trade it as the gamble that it is. Usually technicals don't work around this time. We know when the market's behaving like this, although the lines of support and resistance sure as hell held. But if you're going to risk puts, make sure everything aligns. We're at resistance here. Okay, 144. What's going on at 144? Oh, Q's at resistance, and we're at the trend line, whatever it is. But the reason this trend line is here is because if we close above it, you want to get out of those puts. Simple, easy peasy. So a lot of people made a lot more money during this day, even though I wasn't recommending it myself. Okay, all I can do is share my thoughts on what we should be looking for, what you should be worried about, where we should expect to go based on probabilities and my understanding of price action. Okay. That was pretty much all I had to offer on the day today, okay? Because the market started to get real crazy. I don't know, guys. I don't know how you feel about the current economy. If you think it's good, I don't agree with you. I think the only way we get out of the mess that we're in economically in this country is unfortunately involves catastrophic failure. We've kicked the can down the road way too far. We've added too many new layers of cards to the stack of cards that this economy is built on. We got bank troubles again today. Probably going to get bailed out, but now we're just making a new precedent. Banks, go ahead, be risky. Don't worry about anything. We're going to print your way out of it. I don't play with a bias, but I think the shoe's going to drop eventually, and I don't know when that is. But this can't go on forever. So we'll see how it goes. NVIDIA, the beast that it is, almost got to 900 today. Another crazy day for NVIDIA. But that's pretty much it, guys. So if you got any useful information in this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. If you'd like to join our Discord community, well, we'd love to have you. There's a bunch of new people in there every day, just like you would be. And I want you to take advantage of the free week that you get. Most of you don't even realize you get a free week because none of you make it to the end of the video. So thumbs up to you if you do. I appreciate you. I think some of the best information comes near the ends of these videos. If you like what you get for that free week, please consider becoming a paying member. You don't have to be a paying member, but you do get some actual benefits for becoming a paying member. And those can be found on our website or in our Discord community as perks. And with that, I hope you all had a fantastic day. Till tomorrow. I love you guys.